Sir, you're about to see something really special.
Really thought this part of my life was behind me. Frenzy disappeared with the drinking 3 years ago. Why now? This makes no sense, and I'm right on the verge of freaking out.
Back from your life,
these people can be animals.
what you burn,
Thingy's out.
some bitter things you should never
Good cheese.
learn. Wallow through the days.
Remember, cosplay's not consent.
So here's to me. Congratulations, me. Yay, me.
This would all be so much easier if I was hammered. Hammered.
Won't be there anymore. You can take away the anger, but you leave behind the pain. It's your soul I
New ventures are always scary.
feel till I'm melting
Blah, blah, blah. Something positive and uplifting.
tomorrow. But the hurt will still remain. In your soul I'll live forever till I'm melting in.
Don't miss our new film, The Love Song of William H. Shaw, coming soon to a streaming service near you. Hey everyone, this is Cliff from Talking Pondo. Just wanted to give you a quick heads up about spoilers on the show. We do talk about the films in a certain amount of detail, so you may want to watch the film first and then come back if you're not a fan of spoilers. Also, every now and then there's a little bit of adult language, so we wanted to give you fair warning on that. We hope you enjoy the episode, and we really appreciate you listening. Welcome to Season 2 of Making Pondo and Talking Pondo. Talking Pondo is a podcast where Cliff and Marty give each other a film to watch and talk about them in detail. Some episodes will include a special guest. Making Pondo is a podcast where Cliff and Marty talk to people they have worked with and discuss their experiences on set. All right, that's us, Marty. We're back.
Episode 30 of Season 2.
That's what I have in my logbook.
Talking Pondo,
Talking Pondo.
where Cliff and Marty talk about movies. It's weird to refer to myself in third person,
You're Cliff, right?
right?
I'm Marty.
And this week we have two movies about desperation.
Desperation, really? That's where you're coming at?
Yeah, they're both desperate to make it in show business, whatever it takes, too, in a weird kind of way.
It's driven, yeah, I would say.
Yeah.
I also think it's about two people who create their own characters and parts for themselves in a weird way.
Well, that's true, too. This week it's Baadasssss and Tootsie.
Tootsie.
What an odd pairing, and yet here we are again with two movies from the Criterion Collection, and you wouldn't think they'd have anything to do with each other, but they do, because they're kind of similar in that respect. Let's start with Baadasssss. And Baadasssss was a movie that I think was made for Showtime, but then
Yes.
I think they liked it enough to where Sony Classics put it out, and the thing ended up getting awards, so it might be the only made for Showtime movie in the Criterion Collection. But what is Baadasssss exclamation point?
All right. Badass. From 2003, rated R. Melvin Van Peebles' half documentary, half homage to his father, Melvin Van Peebles' movie Sweet Sweetback's Badass Song from 1971. That's the log line. Your storyline is going to be a little bit longer. Melvin Van Peebles stunned the world for the first time with his debut feature, The Story of a 3-Day Pass. Filmed in France and selected as the French entry in the San Francisco Film Festival, Melvin's film was awarded the top prize. Saying it was controversial would be an understatement. In 1968, for a black man to walk up to the podium and accept the top festival award for a film he had to go abroad to make, now that's how you make your mark. After his comedy Watermelon Man, Melvin was determined to push the Hollywood boundaries with the groundbreaking and even more controversial Sweet Sweetback's Badass Song. Turned down by every major studio, including Columbia, where he had a 3-picture deal, Melvin was forced to basically self-finance. So risking everything he had, he delivered to the world the first black ghetto hero on the big screen, whether they were ready for it or not. More than 30 years later, history is being fashioned again in the telling of this fairy tale. Mario, Melvin's son, directs an honest and revealing portrait of his father. And Mario now tells the story of the making of Melvin Van Peebles' 1971 landmark film, Sweet Sweetback's Badass Song, including Melvin's struggles to raise money to fund the film under the guise of creating a black porno film. Melvin had ducked creditors, the unions, and had to bail out his camera crew after they were arrested because a white cop decided a bunch of Negroes and hippies couldn't have come by the camera equipment honestly. Despite death threats and temporarily losing sight in one eye, Melvin somehow managed to whip into shape a ragtag multiracial crew and finish the film that would give birth to a new era which was about to explode: independent black cinema.
It is a trip because I haven't seen Watermelon Man, but the plot synopsis of it sounds like it's very much in the genre of Tootsie, where it's like now you're living the shoes of another person and you're going to see what it's like to live as them.
Yes, very much so. Yeah, very much so.
That's kind of a trip. But Badass is about, and then he gets away in the end. What? You can't do that. I'm going to do it. Fuck
you
'em.
You can't show black people beating white cops on screen. That's never happened.
So Spielberg apparently always watches Lawrence of Arabia before making a movie to get all pumped up.
Sure,
I watch Badass. I've been doing it for the last couple productions. There's just something about it where obviously they didn't have much money to make this movie, but what the spirit in there of just, I love that story of I'm going to make this movie no matter what.
No matter what. Yeah. Yeah.
I should have talked to Rainn Wilson about it a little more. I was,
Yeah, I completely forgot about that he was in it.
It's such a big part too.
He's got a great part
in it briefly, but no, he's in the whole movie.
Yeah, he plays his friend, the guy who helped him produce it.
Yeah, Bill.
Bill, yeah. I'm a big fan of movies that are about making movies.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite genres of film of all time. Yeah, this is great because he really struggles to make the film. He gets a couple of really lucky, his secretary's boyfriend is into Earth, Wind and Fire, and the band's just starting out, and of course Melvin's like, all right, I'm gonna write the music, you guys play it, and fucking boom. And then what's he do? He puts out the soundtrack first to drum up some business for the movie, because the movie's only going to get 2 theaters to play it, one in Atlanta and one in fucking Detroit, of all places. Mm-hmm. And so it's a very interesting story and a very interesting struggle for the guy. So I've always enjoyed watching this one, always, and it's a lot of fun. Yeah. But let's talk about the actual movie, right?
Well, it's always shelved in action, unfortunately, because people haven't seen it and they look at the cover and they think it's the movie that it's based on. Mm-hmm. But it's not an action movie. No, this is a drama. This is about somebody trying to get a movie made that is kind of an action film. Now, I've seen Sweet Sweetback's Badass Song, and it's kind of like Billy Jack, right? It's of its time. You watch it now, it's a little creaky, but you get what it did.
It was doing,
And so I like that we have this, which is kind of like, it allows me to appreciate it even more because of just the struggle from, how biopics, they kind of cram things together because obviously events didn't all happen at the same time. And you can tell while watching this that they didn't go, okay, we're starting production. Hey, come outside, man. We just lost the money. I'm sure it didn't all happen perfect domino like that.
Sure.
But you go into these movies knowing that, and then they've turned it into storytelling for you. And it's like, well, I can't stop now. We told everybody we're making a movie. And so it's like Bowfinger, but real in that respect.
The film, again, Badass, not the movie that they're making, but the movie that we're watching, Badass, it starts out with like the kid and his dad riding out into the desert to figure out, what the movie he's going to make. And it's very like, it's very much a borrow from Easy Rider. Like the motorcycle, the helmets, just very Easy Rider.
Makes sense, right? Because 70, that movie was brand new. Yeah.
Sure. the whole he's right. It's a bit much, but it's a cool look. Yeah, for sure. I will say there's a shot in the hotel where it's that mirror shot where you go from the hotel to the street. You know, that it's a great camera move that they do, right? Where behind him in the mirror are the people playing and the street moving, and then suddenly you're in the street with him. And I thought that was probably the slickest fucking thing in the entire movie, because it was just so well done, and no attention was drawn to it. It was just a perfect way to transition from inside to outside and to move time along a little bit. I was just like, when I saw it, I was like, damn, as a filmmaker, I'm going to steal that if I can, because that's a really good fucking move. That's a really good move. All the faces that Norman Rockwell never painted is probably one of my favorite quotes in the movie. Mm-hmm. And I think it kind of encompasses what the movie, the reason he's making Sweet Sweetback, you know, is he's kind of done. Because look, if somebody came to me and said, don't do that, just make a comedy, here's a 3-picture deal and the studio is going to pay, I'm not going to make Sweet Sweetback's Badass Song. I'm going to take the 3-picture deal and go make the comedy. So, you know, I admire the fuck out of him for walking away from that part of the language. Yeah,
it's like true artist in that respect of,
exactly.
I'm not here to look, if it's commercial art, that's great. But it's like, yeah, but you're making a movie. It should be commercial art. And they're just like, yeah, whatever. It will be.
Right.
And he ended up knowing how to market it and make it a hit.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a huge swing. It was like, no, I could do that. That's easy. But we're going to do this, because if I pull this off,
mm-hmm.
and then you almost go blind while editing. Jeez.
The film reminds me right away of how much, like, I grew up where the stories and the traditions are cultures that are different. They aren't mine, you know. And this movie has stories and cultures that are completely different, which is awesome, because you that's the best thing about different cultures. You learn from them and they change you, right? But the film slows down, like immediately slows down, where he locks himself in the room and he gets into this writing montage, and it feels very Hunter S. Thompson, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like, okay, that's 2 films you've kind of borrowed from already. Hunter S. in the Vegas hotel room, and then Easy Rider. But I guess if you're going to steal from the best, right?
All right. But it also the same time period as those again, so I guess it does kind of make sense to be like, oh, those guys, yeah, I was right there with that. So
yeah.
But he wasn't on drugs, though. His drug was just making the movie and chomping on cigars constantly. I'm down to my last cigar. Don't fuck with me. Yep. I understand this. I understand this level of frustration.
Yeah. Give me my...
What do you mean your boyfriend said? I thought you cleared this. And then it's like, oh my God. That's like the last thing you want to hear, you know, because you're rolling tomorrow.
She comes to you saying, well, I can't be in this movie because it's too sexy. Well, we talked about this. Yeah. And that's why when you're making, as Lloyd Kaufman will tell you, when you're making the cheap indie film and you have nudity, you shoot that shit first. Mm-hmm. You get it out of the way right away.
Yeah, it's not just about people backing out or anything like that, because if they back out, then you can't do anything with the footage anyway. But what it primarily is the awkwardness is less if you do it in the beginning than you've been shooting for 2 or 3 weeks leading up to the anticipation of a scene like that. And then that just makes it all the more. And they certainly didn't have intimacy coordinators on Sweet Sweetback.
No, hell no. He put his 13-year-old kid in the movie with a naked woman losing his virginity to a prostitute. I mean, it was.
Oh, he should be happy. He's in a movie. And what happens to that kid? He directs this movie.
But still, that's some messed up shit, man.
We're gonna shave his fro and put little patches. What? And he eventually does go with the bald skin cap instead, you know. But
yeah.
Yeah.
it's and I believe his reasoning in the film is, why would I use somebody else's kid and not my own?
Right.
Like if it's good enough for somebody else's, if it's fine enough for me to use somebody else's kid, then it's fine enough for me to use my own kid. And I thought, that's some fucking fucked up logic, Melvin, but okay.
That's some 1970 logic.
Mm-hmm. That is some fucking straight up late 60s love fest logic right there.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of which, this movie being in the near mid-aughts stuff definitely has that mid-aughts level of raunch to it.
Yes.
That starts to disappear from movies pretty shortly after.
There's I have a note here that says it's about the nudity in this movie. We'll get to it. I can't remember where it is, but yeah, the nudity in this movie. Here it is. The nudity in this movie is frequent and not offensive. I don't mind it at all. It's fine.
Well, it's part of the story because it's showing of the time and the type of movie that they're making in the movie. You know, well,
yeah,
it's part of you know, it's actually important to the story. It's a Pondo movie in a way. And you know what I'm talking about. The series of interviews against a black background where somebody's head is tilted to the side, and you always do them in series of threes. 1, 2, third one punchline, and cut back to the story.
Yep.
So,
yeah.
I think if we keep making movies, maybe one day that framework will find its way into one of our films somewhere.
The movie's too clean for me. It doesn't it doesn't feel dirty like the 70s.
Well, yeah, I
it
think
feels
it's
like
the result
it's
of
a
the
very
cheap budget. Yeah,
it's a very stylized version of the 70s, and
I'd like to see it in high def. I'd like to see if the high def looks better. I've only ever seen a DVD copy of it, so
yeah, same. It's still, but I think in high def it's just going to look even cleaner.
It might.
Like it needs to, I'd like to see it just a little dirtier.
It's that early mid-aughts, like post-90s feel of a super clean, almost. It's not a digital production. I'm pretty sure it's shot on film.
It's not that. I'm not talking about the film. I'm talking about the actual clothing, the sets, the props. Everything's like the cars they drive look like rented classic cars.
Well, when you combine them, it looks like a made-for-TV movie in a way.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. It's just everything. The costumes are too clean. The people are too clean. The cars are too clean. It's like, where's the 70s kind of dirt? Where's that? Because if you watch a movie from the 70s, most of them aren't super colorful. They got that weird washed tone to them.
Shit. If you watch Sweetbacks, it looks
that's what I'm talking
really
about.
Dirty, grungy compared to this. But I mean, I guess this is what you could do with your nickel in 03,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. This movie has a pottery scene.
It does. I noticed that. Yeah,
which makes it a Pondo movie more than anything else.
Right? You got that, and you got the interviews.
We have a pottery scene in our movie.
You get a dialogue like, "Fun is the enemy," when talking to the editor, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's a good line." Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna be locked in here with me. You can't quit. You're the only other person who knows these elements.
Fucking Adam West, man, what the hell, dude?
Mm-hmm.
He just stands up and drops trowel in front of him and fucking, let's go for a swim.
Yeah, what an interesting cast. And it makes me wonder how many people knew Melvin and were like, yeah, I'll be in the movie about him.
The actress secretary walking in and doing the impromptu audition while Rainn Wilson and Melvin Mario's are in bed with the girls is hilarious. That's a great scene.
Right.
I thought that was really funny.
Another perfect example of probably putting a couple of incidents all together in one incident for the sake of the movie.
Yeah. Well, and then suddenly Debo and Paul Rodriguez show up from the Whoopie Boys, and now it's a movie. It's about getting the man's foot out your ass, Marty.
Right. That's good dialogue.
Fucking Cosby.
Yeah, that guy they got to play Cosby did a pretty good job, too.
He did. But you just see Cosby in the movie and you go, oh.
Yeah.
Cosby. Okay.
But back then nobody thought of Cosby as,
Well, of course not. No,
he was
back then he
America's
was
dad.
America's dad, yeah.
He
No, this is
wasn't even
before he
America's
was
dad
America's
yet.
dad.
Yeah.
This is even before Fat Albert, right?
Yeah. Before Jello pudding pops and all that.
Yeah. This is around the To My Brother Russell Whom I Slept With time.
Yeah.
Which is folks, if you have not heard, forget about what Bill Cosby, separate the art from the artist and go listen to the second side of that record. It'll kill you. It's hilarious. It's brilliant comedy. Anyway, puts his own 13-year-old kid in a sex scene, and he justifies it with, well, why wouldn't I use my own kid? That's my note. But damn, like, all I could think of was like, well, maybe shoot the scene differently, or maybe not at all. Like, they don't even have to be in the same room together if you do it right. We shot the liquor store scene without an entire person.
Right. Of course, we did that out of necessity too. So.
Yeah, but still, I think the necessity of not putting a 13-year-old kid in front of a naked woman.
I hear you. He was just obsessed. Yeah.
But what do I know?
Well, it's like between that and taking the money from Bill Cosby to finish making the movie, these are reasons why people don't like Hollywood nowadays. Mm-hmm. But this was like almost, going on 60 years ago. Not that it makes it better or anything, but it does show that it's like a different planet in many ways, Yeah. And he ended up making a movie that was very important to it changed the tide of cinema, much like Billy Jack as well. These 70s movies that were indie that were just making shit tons of money. I guess the modern equivalent would be like your Terrifier, and Hollywood is like, well, that was a fluke. It's not always a fluke, Hollywood. Sometimes people know what they're doing.
Your Sean Baker stuff, too, would probably qualify. Your earlier stuff of that would probably qualify.
As of this recording, Sean Baker just got Oscar nominations for that new movie.
Unbelievable.
Honora, which is brand new at the time of this recording.
I've only seen one of his movies, but the one I saw was...
Because of the show.
You could tell right away that kid knew what he was doing. But anyway, we're not here to talk about Sean Baker. Anyway, we owe Ryan a bit of gratitude for turning us on to that. He is a hell of a filmmaker. But, in this movie, though, Mario Van Peebles, Melvin, he keeps going further and further out on a limb. And also, there's that scene early on in the car where he's like, "You call me Dad."
Oh, yeah.
Where it's like, oh, this dude's not not going to be the super cool hero that you're expecting throughout this movie. You're going to watch him kind of fall apart and act like an ass, and he does. He really falls apart. I mean, he slaps that. You're laughing about that editor kid where he's like, pain, fun is the enemy, and then he ends up smacking that kid across the face when he wants to quit.
Oh my god!
I'm quitting. He's like, "You're not quitting." Smack, smack. You're like, damn.
In your mind, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The biggest thing about this movie, though, for me, the thing that kind of stopped me in my tracks, because again, I've seen this movie several times, but I haven't seen it recently, and I haven't seen it since this particular event, is the gun in the fucking prop box.
Oh god. It makes your skin crawl.
It makes my skin, and hello, Rust.
I know.
It's like, oh my god, a gun in the prop box? Are you serious?
So they had a real loaded gun that found its way into the prop box, and everybody was in and out of that prop box, and nobody grabbed the fake gun.
Yeah. Or if they did, they didn't pull the trigger and fire it.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I read, though, was that gun was Melvin's gun. It wasn't a gun that he took off of, because in the movie, he takes it off the guy.
Yeah.
And gives it to the secretary and says, "Put this away and we'll give it to him later." And she puts it in the prop box. Because, she's just a dumb girl. But in the real life, I read during research that that was his gun, and that it got mixed up with the other prop guns, and that a lot of people on the set were armed because of, they were shooting in a lot of rough areas. And also they were non-union. And if the union got a hold of them, there could be some physical, I guess, problems. So everybody was kind of packing and carrying and that type of shit. But I don't know. I guess that doesn't make for a good movie. But
It's another example of twisting the stories.
Yeah. The quote I read was that they used Hell's Angels bikers, and like several of them wanted to leave. And Melvin was like, "We paid you for the day. You're going to be here for the day." And they started to, like, one of them pulled out a knife and started like clean his fingernails and get all menacing. And like Melvin just snapped his fingers and several guns appeared amongst the crew. And then Hell's Angels was like, "Yeah, okay, we'll just, finish the shoot." So I don't know.
That's rough.
Mm-hmm. But a loaded gun in the prop box, Jesus, that's my nightmare. We haven't had to really mess with a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, it made me pause the movie and think, like, this is why I don't like to make movies that have weapons in them, because even having that on the set is just this extra level of. But of course, if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, and safety first, then there is there's nothing to worry about. But you still have those nightmares about, the closest we had was that thing with the knife where it was like, oh shit, we have a real knife on the set. But,
and it was like, damn, that thing's close to his throat.
Somebody could
I
get
don't
hurt.
like this. I told, the owner of that knife to take that knife and get it away from my set as soon as we were done shooting, and never to bring it back ever again.
Safety first. It's just a movie. It's not worth getting hurt over. Yeah.
No. And I've been around guns my entire life, man. I mean, I come from a background of gun. My family has a gun culture. And because of that, I trust people that I don't know with guns a hell of a lot less than I trust myself. I can't imagine being on a set with live ammunition. It would just, I would be so nervous the entire time. I wouldn't know what to do with myself.
It doesn't make sense, especially in this day and age where you don't have to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's, look, hey, if you get even a John Wick movie, I think they still use a few squibs and a few, I think they're starting to move to like animation or special effects for a lot of that gunplay.
They have the money to do it safely too.
But they also have the money to do it safely.
It was like, as an aside, that Kane Hodder documentary I watched where, he'd gotten in that fire stunt that went wrong. And then years later, he was offered to do a fire stunt. And then he thought, you know what, I am going to do it. And because he know that his buddy knew what he was doing. He did the stunt and it went perfect. And he's like, see, if you do it the safe way, you don't have anything to worry about.
Right.
But still, like, I can't imagine doing a fire stunt after having been caught on fire.
Well, and I agree with the fact that if you do weapons the safe way, it can be safely done. But it's just, unfortunately, there have been some really bad accidents with that stuff. And
I get worried about even pointy items. Yeah. Swords, knives, battle axes.
Fake lightsabers that people want to swing around on set. Let's see. What's the charge? The charge is being black, which is another one of my favorite lines from the movie. I can't believe Cosby actually funded the film. That was pretty crazy. $50,000 to get it over the line. That was pretty crazy. And the best part of the movie for me is that even though he finishes the movie, like, he still doesn't have any. It's not over for him.
Yeah,
like he's still got to put it into a theater and get people to see it. And he's made a movie that, like, he knows the audience is probably there, but nobody in the business even understands that audience exists. They have no clue. And because he's about to, like, open up an entire blaxploitation world that Hollywood's going to jump on and put money into over. And I don't think that Sweetback is a blaxploitation movie. I agree with Roger Ebert. Not a blaxploitation movie because he lives.
Yeah, but it helps kick off.
It kicks off this idea of these blaxploitation movies that
rated X, couldn't put the title on the marquee. Nobody would hold the advertising. So it had so many things working against it. But like we were talking about earlier, he knew things like the soundtrack and other ways to market it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he paid Earth, Wind, and Fire $500 for a soundtrack, and the check bounced.
He said that's check
hilarious.
Bounced all over the place.
Bounced all over the place.
I believe John Singleton is the DJ.
Yes, that's John Singleton. That's correct.
Yeah.
That's another note of mine. Yeah. This movie's full of famous stars. David Alan Grier is the producer.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I can't remember who. Tiny Zeus Lister, right? That's the guy who played Debo. He's the sound guy, or the
No,
assistant
that was
sound guy.
that's not Debo. That's fucking the dad from Everybody Hates Chris.
You're so right. It's Terry Crews. That's terrible.
Yeah.
My goodness, I'm so sorry. That's terrible. Terry Crews. What was I thinking? When you make a movie, you have to know who your audience is, and they tell Melvin that in the film. And it's like I said, he knows where his audience is. They just can't see it, right?
Because it hasn't existed yet. That's why he's the more of a pure artist in that respect.
Yep. Created a film that couldn't be marketed.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, rated X, can't put it anywhere. Can't. Well, the only thing you do is go on the radio and push the soundtrack, I guess.
Like you told him in the hot tub, you're like, fuck him. It's like, yep, we're making this. Doesn't matter. Or pretend to be a porn shoot so the union won't shut us down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's my favorite part of the film is the last 20. That story about the whole film is great, but this to be done with a film, to have something that you've truly stressed over and gotten across the finish line, and then you don't know what to do with it, and you end up going with this guy who's bankrupt basically and can get you 2 screens. It's, you know, and then you end up making $15 million off this thing, $150,000 movie that you put out, you know.
The only audience member who seemed like they were into the movie gets up and walks out before the film's over, and he's just like, oh no. Of course, he had seen enough that he knows to go and tell everybody else to come watch it the next screening.
Well, I read that Black Panthers put out in their newsletter to go see it, that they felt that it was
the
leader of the Black Panthers said it was a good representation of black men in society, and
they mentioned it in the closing credits. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I like how Mario chose to cut footage from his movie with footage from his dad's movie. Like, I think that really sells it. And as we talk about this movie, we're talking not only about the movie Mario made, but we're talking about the movie his dad made and how he struggled with it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think he does a really good job of weaving the two together to make a whole new thing.
Yeah.
I thought that was a pretty slick job and idea.
And then in those last 20 minutes, it's kind of like The Producers. He's across the street at the bar. He thinks it's a complete flop. And meanwhile, it's like, what's all that noise over there?
Yeah. Well, 25 tickets.
Mm-hmm. Except he didn't make, Springtime for Hitler. He didn't make a movie that was bad on purpose like The Producers. But it still kind of gives you those shades of the,
Yeah.
Everything's ruined. Wait a minute. No, it's not.
They love it.
Mm-hmm. Customer's always right. Put it back on.
Mm-hmm. Go to the theater next door and buy everything they have.
Oh, yeah, because they sold out of all.
Sold out. Yeah. Well, and that's how you make your money. I mean, you don't make your money off of ticket sales. You make your money off of concessions. Popcorn is cheap. You sell it for expensive. The markup, you'd be surprised, folks. I ran a movie theater for 7 years. The markup is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. But we all know that, right? That's not why we go to the movies.
And so, yeah, the movie is a little corny because of its limitations, but there's still enough in it that overrides a lot of that for me. So I give it 3.5. Okay.
Yeah, I give it the same 3.5. I was going to go 3, but thinking back, I think that what puts it over for me is the way he mixes the two together to create this. What feels like his dad's movie almost feels like part of his story. Like he shot that for the movie, and I quite enjoy that.
Yeah, I just get jazzed up from it. It's.
Mm-hmm. I do too.
Yeah,
I especially love those type of movies where you're overcoming something and you're really pushing, especially in film type movies, and especially when it's real, it's even more inspiring.
Right. And he was running 2 cameras, right?
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah,
you got
that's
to do when
insane.
you don't have the time.
Yeah. Telling his script supervisor to go to hell and he didn't need a reverse. And it's like, oh,
Now I'm doing it. And
okay.
it's like, oh,
I
shit,
got it
you're the
all in my,
real Billy Walsh. Yeah.
I got it all in my head. It's like, okay.
Mhm. Fuck it. I'll shoot the whole thing and save us some money. It's like, oh, that sounds familiar, right?
Which takes us to Tootsie.
Yeah, the whole movie's Median.
Yeah, right.
Oh, Tootsie, a movie that I thought was from 1983, but it's actually from 1982. December of 82, which does put it on that verge. But it does put it squarely within that 1978 to 1982 era of film. Yeah.
They released it in, you know what happened? They released it in December of 82 for Oscar consideration. And then it did okay during December, but then it exploded next year and everybody watched it. That's when everybody, because back then movies didn't come out like they do now back then.
But watching it now, I go, oh, this does feel a lot more like the early 80s than even the mid 80s. This was still, what did I write here? It is set in that, rests in that spot of the early 80s, not quite the 70s hangover of 80 and 81, but not yet the Gremlins Ghostbusters of 84. It's right in that little...
Yeah.
It's right next to like Night Shift, you know?
Yeah. Night Shift is a good call. I agree. 82 movies have those movies have a weird feel to them before you get to like Taps.
Yeah.
Night Shift, Six Pack.
Yeah.
And then, and then you get like a Dr. Detroit, Losing It, Nate and Hayes. And then suddenly it's 84 and you've got Wildlife, Hot Moves, Top Secret, Night of the Comet.
That's about the time where they stopped making movies for our grandparents.
Mm-hmm. And then by 85, it's Legend of Billie Jean, My Science Project, just one of the guys, Live and Die in L.A. We move into really the slick of the 80s. But
yeah, something about that day where Ghostbusters and Gremlins came out on the same day, where it really is the switch of the 80s. It
was an inflection point for sure.
Yeah, but what is Tootsie for those not in the know?
Right?
I'm still trying to figure it out myself,
Tootsie, 1982, rated PG, hour and 56 minutes. Here we go. Michael Dorsey, an unsuccessful actor, disguises himself as a woman in order to get a role on a trashy hospital soap. That's your log line. Your storyline is Michael Dorsey is an unemployed actor with an impossible reputation. In order to find work and fund his friends' plays, he dresses as a woman, Dorothy Michaels, and lands the part in a daytime drama. Dorsey loses himself in this woman role and essentially becomes Dorothy Michaels, captivating women all around the city and inspiring them to break free from the control of men and become more like Dorsey's initial identity. This newfound role, however, lands Dorsey in a hot spot between a female friend lover, a female co-star he falls in love with, and that co-star's father who falls in love with him, along with a male co-star who yearns for his affection. Tootsie.
Why the title Tootsie?
So Tootsie is it's from an earlier script. It's from a play. I'm sorry. My apologies. So this was a play first.
Yeah. I noticed Robert Evans was one of the early writers, which makes sense because somebody had an issue with actors who wrote this movie.
Apparently this thing went through a bunch of hands before it finally got to the final writers who finished it up. But it was bought as a prospect. Robert Evans' brother bought it as a prospect, wrote a script. It got shopped around. Hoffman came on board with his company, and then he somehow convinced Evans' brother to take a backseat and produce. And Hoffman became the sole creative control of the film. And so he's the one that created the character, basically. He basically screen tested the crap out of that character. Not that he wrote it, but I read that, the script was being rewritten on set, kind of like Iron Man, where they were like, what are we filming today? Okay, type of shit.
Yeah, that makes total sense, actually. When you compare this to Out of Africa, the same director, don't even feel like the same person directed it, which makes me feel like Sidney Pollack, being like the fourth director on Tootsie, probably did this one for the money, or it was just, because like you were saying, it went through so many hands. It's crazy that something like that then becomes a huge hit, because usually when you go through that much, it's got a lot going against it. But it didn't end up being the case here. But it's weird. This movie shot in scope, and Out of Africa's not. I feel like this should have been the one shot at 185, and that should have been the scope.
It does have a big feel to it for a movie that isn't really it's not like a grandiose movie. It's a movie set in a city, but it does have a very big, because of that aspect ratio, it does have a very big feel.
And I think that must be one of the things that it has going for it that people like so much. What I noticed, especially in the first 15 minutes, is the movie's very vibrant. It feels like it's kind of alive in a way. And I think that's what carries a lot of people through the whole thing. So
I think part of that has to do with the very, Pollack decides to use montage sequences early on.
Oh, yes,
to sort of get a lot of things done quickly.
No fewer than 5.
Yeah, he does quite a few, but he does them in a way
I've heard in a while.
He does them in a way that, in my opinion, they work, because they're not just they're not your basic kind of like, we need a montage for a workout. We need a montage to show this. It's a montage of people over time doing things and then coming to rest and then landing and back in scene, rather than just sort of like, we need to show you this and we don't know how to do it without being boring. So here's some rock music and, Sylvester Stallone working out, which is, nothing wrong with that, but it's not that kind of montage.
Yeah, this music is fucking horrible, and it's through the whole thing. And it's telling me it might be you. Oh God, life. It's just like you put me in the Fandango waiting room again with that.
Dude, that shit it reminds me of 10. It reminds me of Arthur.
Yeah, see, this is how you felt about 10 is how I feel about this movie. Yeah,
this is back when you had to have a hit song for your movie,
and it was.
And if you didn't have a hit song for your movie, and if it was a bad hit song, it could kind of tank the movie. But if it was a good hit song, it could lift the movie up. Arthur's theme. You've got the Bolero from 10. You've got this song, which was a freaking hit. It was a top Billboard hit.
So why do they call it Tootsie? The only mention of Tootsie in the movie is in one of the songs. And I know there's like Tootsie Roll, and then there's Tootsie from like the 30s.
Right.
But it signifies this movie was made for my grandparents, I think.
I think more it was about. I want to say that
and you know what's funny? I talked to several people.
I'm probably screwing up my research here, but I want to say that it was suggested by Hoffman because it came from the play that they bought the IP from, basically.
Because I've talked to several people who haven't seen the movie in a long time, and they're like, "What do you mean? I thought her name was Tootsie." So there's a Mandela effect where people forget her name is Dorothy and they think her name is Tootsie.
Nor does anybody call her Tootsie in the movie.
It's never mentioned. It's only in one of the songs. And so I'm just sitting there kind of scratching my head like, Tootsie? What, like Toots or something? Like it's...
I think it's meant to be like a sassy woman.
They could have called it broad or something, woman, right? Here's like these offensive terms.
Like a broad or a dame or a Tootsie, type of thing. Why Tootsie? I don't know, dude. You tell me. I think it's from the play, and I think Hoffman suggested it.
Did you ever hear the word Tootsie used in real life before that film outside of a Tootsie Roll? Now, I know we were very young at the time, but I don't recall anybody ever saying Tootsie.
I don't think so. Maybe in like an old movie from the 40s, like a black and white movie on a UHF station or something. But even then it was probably Toots.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely unique.
Or Tootsie by Al Jolson, the jazz singer type thing.
Yeah, Tootsie Goodbye.
Oh, yeah. No, so then I would have, because I read the Beverly Cleary series about fucking Super Fudge and all that stuff. And the grandma sings that in that book. So I would have read it from there. I don't know if that was before or after Tootsie, though.
Right around that time.
I'm not sure. Right around that time.
But like I was saying,
I would have been 9. So yeah, it's right around that time.
like I call this as another movie from that Jackie Martling era of filmmaking, that it was clearly made for people 40 to 50 years older than me. It's better than a lot of those movies, but there was still enough where I was like, oh, I don't think I'm the audience for this. Because I'm with Dustin Hoffman. I feel this is a drama more than a comedy.
I mean, I don't think Hoffman saw it as a comedy because playing a woman affected him personally so much, right? Like he talked about how much playing a woman and being in character for that long kind of put him in a way that he'd never considered in the mindset of being a woman. Obviously, that's a experience that's simulated. It's not the real thing, but I know he talked about how much it affected him, but I don't know. I don't know that I necessarily agree with what he's saying. I think it's a comedy.
I felt the movie was about oh shit, what am I losing my train of thought? Oh, it's about an indictment of how diva actors and over the top, hard to work with actors can be. Like, I don't even think it's about like gender roles really. That's kind of like a side plot in a way. It's more about like, because he's a shithead actor that nobody likes.
I think they're flip flop. Right? I think the movie's about the woman thing, but also about the fact that he's a pain in the ass to work with.
And he's still the same pain in the ass doing the same. Well, I wouldn't say that. It's the same stuff he did why he couldn't get a job in the first place. And so he never really seems to learn anything. And he ends up with the girl anyway, but that's okay. She's another vapid actor as well. So they belong together. Terry Garr, completely gaslit through the whole movie. It's so sad. What a terrible way to treat your friend. But it's kind of like a whiplash thing. I'm so obsessed with my work, I keep forgetting about you, but I keep making plans with you. And yeah, we had a lot of that. He's the loudmouth guy that won the day, and never learned anything.
He had sex with her because she was suspecting him, and he needed to, get out of. He didn't want to lie, so he needed to get out of it, and so.
But see, I did it all for you, and this and that. Well, in this movie, I actually just did it all for myself. I didn't pretend to be a different identity to help things like you see in so many other movies that rip Tootsie off. In this one, he was purely selfish. He just wanted to get an acting job because for him, it was just it was acting. True. It was just a job. Yeah. So there's no hint of any trans anything in this movie. This is just him.
Oh no, I don't. This movie's not about trans representation.
There's no offensive at all. I just thought it was kind of boring because I don't
think the movie even tries to aspire to that.
No, not at all. It doesn't even have that in its fiber at all. It's just guy gets the job, ignores his friend while chasing another person. Oh, I'm in love with Jessica Lange because she's attractive. And then the guys are like, well, I'm in love with you because I think you're attractive. And sitcom ensues.
Well, and he ends up having sex with his friend to save her feelings, which ends up being a terrible idea because now he knows they're not going to have a relationship, right? And kind of gives her hope, which is a shitty thing to do.
Yeah, it's oh, you couldn't get a job? Now I suddenly have this full outfit and I'm walking down the street. I had a Mandela effect of thinking he had a transformation scene before that. No, he had all Dorothy outfit just ready to go.
No, he goes through a montage where he borrows money from his agent and then he goes on a shopping spree and then he's Dorothy.
Are you certain about that?
I am.
Because it seemed like about 13 minutes in the movie, right after her audition, he's suddenly walking down the street in full garb. I don't remember where he puts it on.
He puts together one outfit. Yes, he's got one outfit, but he mentions how he only has the one outfit. And then he's talking to his agent and says, I need you to give me, because that's when he surprises his agent in the recipe room.
But that's after Dorothy. That's after he went to the audition. It's suddenly has the one outfit.
But in the recipe room, he explains that that's the only outfit he has, and he needs more money to keep.
I remembered it backwards. Yeah. And I also remember Bill Murray being a person who helped him with the outfits. No, Bill Murray stares at him like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, one of my favorites is where he's trying to talk to him about the the outfit, and he just looks at him and goes, I feel like we're moving into a weird place right now. And it makes me laugh. Apparently most of Murray's lines were improvised.
Oh, he always improvises. Yeah.
And also he agreed to not be first billing so that it wouldn't be a Bill Murray movie.
Yeah.
Because they didn't want him taking any kind of spotlight away from what was Jessica Lange and Dustin Hoffman's movie. Jessica Lange wins the Oscar for this, by the way.
I know. I'm like, wow. I guess because she didn't get it for Francis, you get it for this one.
It's a subdued performance. It works, but and to a certain extent, I like the fact that she's not helpless. She's aware of what she's doing, the character, and when she decides, like when she meets Dorothy and kind of decides to stop kind of doing what she's doing or whatever. I don't know. I like that she didn't fall into a lot of tropes for that. Maybe she did. I don't know.
I thought it was nothing but sitcom tropes once he becomes the soap opera. But I guess maybe that's the joke, that he's living his own soap opera while being on a soap opera.
Mm-hmm. Well, I could see that. I mean, she's married. She's not married. She's got a kid, but yet the kid's not really used as any sort of prop for her to feel bad about, or that she's struggling. She's managing that kid in her life, no problem, and juggling this director who she knows she's sleeping with for a reason, which is to keep her job and her career. She's self-aware. She's not stupid.
And what's really funny is at the end is when he reveals that he's himself, and then he's outside the studio, and Jessica Lange is out there signing autographs, and the people are looking at him, and not one of them goes, "Hey, you're Dorothy. Give me an autograph. We know who you are. You just did like the craziest thing ever on this show." They wouldn't hire him from that show.
Yeah.
Boy, he'd be through the fucking stratosphere on that. That's what these soap operas are about, or crazy twists like that. You can't write shit like that, But it's 1982, so he has to lose his job. He can't win that too. It would have been too much.
I think the movie's extremely quotable. I'm wearing lifts. I can be shorter. We're looking for somebody shorter. We're looking for somebody different. We're looking for not you, basically.
Yeah, my favorite part is the first 15 minutes.
Yeah, you may be high on butt. You may be high on and, just where he's given those acting lessons. And pardon me, but is my acting interfering with your talking is, fantastic.
We see cans of Tab.
Yeah, cans of fucking Tab. This is the first movie that made me actually think about movies and TV and how it's made. Because I saw it when I was about 8 or 9, I think. I saw it when it came out. Maybe 10. But it was one of the very first movies where I started to think about, like, oh, this is kind of how, people are made, there's cameras and people standing around, and what's that person do? And why is the fucking DJ from the Warriors wearing a headset? And, she's the floor manager. Okay, that's cool.
And the older doctor who keeps trying to pick up on Dorothy is in Space Travelers, the MST classic, also known as Marooned.
What else is he in? What was the big thing that he was in that I keep thinking of him for? He also played a doctor in it. Spacey, like a spaced out doctor. What the hell was that? That's going to drive me crazy.
The movie looks so old.
Oh,
he
was
the way it's shot.
That's the Police Academy Commandant.
That's right. He totally is.
It's the Police Academy Commandant. Jesus. Sorry to interrupt you. What were you saying?
Who did this first? This movie looks so old. And I know it's because of the way it's shot and it's so grainy and stuff. And it's like when you look at things like Dr. No that looks even like almost more modern, it is a trip to see. And they kind of stopped making movies that looked this gritty shortly thereafter as we move into 84 and beyond. Everything becomes more polished.
It looks like old New York to me. It looks like Cassavetes, old New York type of like, that's to me, it's fun to look at these movies because you're like, look, that's what New York used to look like before they Disneyfied Times Square and put them all of America here and, whatever the fuck they did to, built a giant reflection pool where the towers used to be. And, I don't know.
Yeah,
I haven't been to New York in a while, but
the quality of the film just seemed like it was leaning more 70s look.
Yeah. Well, and again, I think it's because even in the up until the mid 80s, New York looked like it was in the fucking 70s.
Right. It is representative of that, yeah.
At least in my opinion.
You compare this to Splash, and it's a lot shinier.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that.
Both of these movies get pretty high ratings on Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this one, I think this one deserves it. I think it's funny. I think it's well done.
I don't get the joke. I didn't think it was funny.
You didn't think it was
funny? I don't know what I'm supposed to be laughing at. So, can we just watch Priscilla again? I mean,
it's not that movie. Again, we talked about it. It has nothing to do with trans. It's about a man trying to hide as a woman and pull off that feat and keep his job. But which is perfectly defined by him coming out to grab a taxi and going, taxi, 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 and the taxi stopping.
Now, humor is subjective, and I've said time and time again that I'm kind of a heretic towards some pop culture things. Sometimes I'll be the 10th dentist who doesn't recommend Dentine, so.
I guess. I mean, I found the film funny. I find it charming. I think it's funny. I think it's well done. Pollock didn't want to be in the film as the agent.
That's interesting. Yeah, he does a good job though.
Hoffman demanded it and basically had his agent Michael Ovitz call Pollock after a while and say, you got to be in the film. And apparently, what Dustin said is that they and other people say is that they argue so much behind the camera that they just put all that argument in front of it. And that's where
some of the stuff that I really enjoyed was those aspects.
It's probably because it's real.
It's just all the actual soap opera thing was like, I don't know, maybe at one time it had something, but since it's been distilled so many movies throughout the years that I go back to it and I'm just like, oh, I get that you're the originator in a way, but there's nothing left for me at this point. So
well, that's a shame. It's funny how worried he is about what Dorothy wears and how I don't know. They play that to like him getting in touch with his feminine side, I guess, or whatever. And I guess that's the joke. I find it funny that he's just suddenly like, okay, now that I have a part, I got to wear clothes. I want to go out. To me, it would be the same if he got the big part on the stage and he was playing a male part. He would go out and do the same thing.
Yeah, he's obsessive
he gets with his clothes and the character. And he also wants Dorothy to be presented well. Like at one point in the movie, he says, I think Dorothy is smarter than I am, which made me laugh pretty hard. And he's probably right. Dorothy probably is fucking smarter than he is.
I think the reason it works is because he doesn't play it like a comedy. He doesn't play anything for laughs. He's just playing it as the obsessive character. But I guess I was supposed to laugh that then he thought he was attractive or something. That humor's not flying for me. Like, guys in a dress. It's like maybe it might have made my grandparents laugh because it was kind of like, whoa, we haven't seen that before. But now I just see a guy in a dress. It's not. There's no humor there. So,
guy in a dress is classic comedy from days of old, sir.
Yeah, but it's not funny. It's just a person wearing a different article of clothing. I don't find any humor in it.
It's as funny as painting a mustache on yourself and waggling a cigar. It's funny. Funny's funny. Very true. And then fucking Andy Warhol shows up, and you really get the feeling that this movie is extremely old. It's like, oh my god, it's Andy Warhol. So this is Gina Davis's first movie. And she's so damn thin. It's like you could tell she was like starving before she actually got the part. It's like, girl, eat a sandwich. So I read that Dustin Hoffman was kind of her mentor on the film because it was her first. And he said, look, your co-stars are going to pressure you. You're going to be big in this. You're going to go back to LA. You're going to get parts and your co-stars are going to try to have sex with you. Don't have sex with your co-stars. And he said, if one of them tries to get you to have sex with him, say, I'd love to, but I'm worried it would ruin this awesome sexual chemistry that we have on film, on screen. And then Gina Davis later, during an interview, said that Nicholson was trying real hard to get with her, and she used that line, and he started laughing hysterically and said, who the hell gave you that line? Who told you to say that? Which I thought was really, really funny.
Your buddy Dustin Hoffman.
When I saw this as a kid, I didn't understand that Jessica Lange thought Dorothy was a lesbian when Dorothy reaches over to kiss her.
Oh yeah.
Like I was 9 or 10 and I was just like, why? Okay, sure. It's weird. It's a good movie. It's not smooth. It's clunky. It's got that early 80s clunk to it in places. Like you said, those montages are a bit weird.
If you like the music, then the movie might be better for you. But if you're like me and that's like an ice pick to your brain, it added an extra level of, oh God, make it stop.
The music is rough. Yeah. I love when he rips the wig off on live television. Like I absolutely that's so great. And it feels very, I don't know, La Cage aux Folles or something like that, but also very I'm losing my mind, ripping my wig off, showing myself on television. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I thought it was not too dissimilar to Animal Factory in a way, because it's just one bad decision after another.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's one of those movies where the premise is that you get yourself into a situation and you keep trying to make it work because it's good for you. But it's like you said, you're just digging deeper into the problem and not admitting, because if you just admit earlier that you screwed up, it'd probably go lightly on you. But then again, you wouldn't have had the big adventure that you had and met all the friends along the way, right?
Yeah, Terry Garr, well, sorry. Not everybody's, I don't expect people to be perfect characters. No, that makes it interesting. I just, once he became Dorothy, I kind of checked out. Because I was like, oh, you like her, he likes you. Aha, the end. I was like, oh man. I was disappointed because I thought there was so much more to it.
Well, there is. There's him kind of bringing the character's power up and changing the show with the character and some other things. But I hear what you're saying.
Probably more impactful in 82, 83, because we hadn't seen that as much. Yeah.
Well, for me, it's a 3.5-star movie for sure.
Yeah, I'm 1.5.
Oh, I would easily rate this right up there with Badass.
Yeah, I'd never want to sit through this again. It's not offensive. It's not offensive at all. No, I just thought it was boring.
I didn't think it was boring at all. I thought it was very funny and quotable, and again, Dabney fucking Coleman can't hate a movie with Dabney fucking Coleman in it. But that's what it was.
And I am glad we watched it, though, because it is an important cultural artifact of the early 80s, and it may even tie into future selections. So it's very important that it became part of the discussion. So,
well, what do you got for me next week?
Next week is, let's do more movies about making movies. Let's watch SOB. We watched 10, so now let's watch a Blake Edwards movie that might be better, might be worse. I don't know. Let's see. I'm thinking you're either going to go, I really liked it, or God, that was hard to sit through. So we're going to find out next week with SOB.
SOB. Okay. Fantastic.
Standard operational bullshit.
I think I'm going to go ahead and get... I don't know. We've been on a kind of a women at the forefront kick, or at least men dressing up as women at the forefront kick.
You took her job.
Maybe I want to do that.
You didn't take Terry Garr's job because they wouldn't even see her for the part.
Terry Garr got a part. That was all she wanted out of it, anyways.
That part was not hers, right? She was not the right person.
But she got a part in Jeff's play.
Right.
She was super excited, and so therefore she's happy, and therefore
exactly. She's better off not being with Dustin Hoffman.
It's better, absolutely.
He's let the two vapid actors have each other. I don't know how long that's gonna fucking last, right?
Oh my God, who knows?
Well, you tricked me as being, you were damn convincing in that part as Dorothy, so it's okay.
All right, okay, so I'm gonna take a left-hand turn here. We just did a Chris Tucker movie. Let's do another one. I'm gonna give you Rush Hour.
Oh, okay, so you're giving me a movie that I should have watched, and maybe I did, but that time period is a bit of a blur, so maybe I haven't seen this movie before. So
I can't. I mean, much like Friday. I think if you had seen it, you'd remember it. But maybe I'm wrong.
We'll find out.
We'll find out. All right, then. You guys write in and let Marty know how much he's wrong about Tootsie,
or how right I am,
or how right he is, and all that type of stuff. And we'll see you next week.
First thing you need to know about movie making: when the director says "listen up," you listen the fuck up.
Word. Pardon me, but is my acting interfering with your talking, Marty? Let's get out of here. Later, man.
Support the show on Buzzsprout for only $3 a month. Give us a 5-star review on Spotify or the platform of your choice. And be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube page.